Hello, my name's Charles Sanderson. I'm a chemical engineer who's been using Excel for quite a while, and I thought I'd do some recordings of some of the tips and tricks that I've picked up along the way. I'm going to try talking today about pivot tables, which are a great way of taking unstructured data and putting it all together, sorting it into something more useful. I'm going to use an admin kind of an example, people's timesheets as the basic demo here. But I've used it for all sorts of things, more chemical engineering related, so taking model output, for example, and then looking at how much energy or water is flowing from one part of a flow sheet to another, or looking at large sets of plant data out of the analytical or out of the plant database and trying to summarize that and turn it into something useful. Okay, so what I've got here is I've got sort of people's timesheets. I've got a date, the person, the group they're working in, the project they were working on that day, and the number of hours they've booked against it. What I want to do is build a pivot table to summarize this data. Say I want to fill in, work out how to build the clients for the work. So I'm going to come into Insert Pivot Table. It's picked up the data range for me already, which is great. I'm going to just pop it in the same spreadsheet for demonstration purposes, and I'll stick it there in column H. Okay, so when I do that, you can see what Excel's done is it's read through this big table of data, it's worked out what the columns are, and then it's going to let me put that in rows, columns, some values and so on. So what I want to do is, let's say I want to know which project to bill and how many hours to bill against those projects. So you see, as I did that, I pulled in the project, is looked through this, found the unique entries. There's 4 different projects that they're working on, and there's the number of hours that have been billed. So that's useful, but maybe I can get some more information out of this data. So let's create another pivot table, just for the fun of it. So I'm going to use this set of data. I'm going to pop it in column K this time. So there it is. Now what I want to do, I don't know, let's say we want to see what groups have been working on what projects, and how many hours they've built. And so there you can see, now I can see that the chemistry group is mostly working on the new catalyst and the plant design. The HR group has been doing reviews and mergers. And so you can see how the work is breaking down and who's doing what. The other thing, here's an example where I threw in the filter of the dates, and now that I can do something similar to that. I can say, on the first 2 days of April, who billed what hours and where did that time go. I can update the data, so if I change the information in this column, so let's make this 8 and 0. It doesn't automatically update everything, but if what I do is I come over to the Analyze, I can then refresh the individual table or refresh all the tables, and you'll see that they change slightly. I can expand the range or change the range of where I'm going. I can clear out the information I've done. There's all sorts of things I can do with that. I've been showing just the sum up here. Down here what I did was actually took the average number of hours. You can see if I change the field setting, I've got various transformations I can do to the data. I can have the sum of the hours, the number of entries there are, the min, the max, all that sort of good stuff is available for changing how those data show up in the model. This is a relatively small example, not very many data entries, and it's a bit phony. Just to get some real data, I had a little poke around the internet, and I found that the Bureau of Transport Statistics, part of the US federal government, collects data on what's crossing each of its land borders as a function of time and date. So here you can see a huge data set. I think it's 335,000 pieces of data. So a huge data set, way more than I'm going to be able to work through by hand. So I set up a pivot table, which I've got here. Here I'm doing a more complicated setup. So what I've done is I've filtered it by state and by transportation mode. So At the moment, I'm looking at Alaskan bus passengers, folks coming, I guess, back from Canada or coming in from Canada. I've got the port name as the column, so you can see there's four different border crossings between Canada and Alaska, I guess. I've got multiple rows, so you can see it sort of compresses the data. So I've got the year first, then the quarter, then the month. So if I wanted to drill down and get more information, I can sort of see in December of 1996 that 12 people rode the bus and came across at Skagway. There you go. And again, I'm using the sum of the number, but I mean there's various other things that can be related there. So as you can see, this is quite a powerful way of then digging through like a large data set. There you go. There's the data for train passengers coming into Minnesota through International Falls, I guess, is where most people come in. Okay. Hopefully that gives you a flavor for what the pivot table is and how to use it. I'd love feedback. Let me know what you think, and if there's any other topics that I can maybe help with. Thank you.